Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for standing by for Ruhnn Holding Limited's earnings conference call for the first quarter fiscal year 2021. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. Today's conference call is being recorded. I will now turn the call over to your host, Mr. Sterling Sung, Senior IR Director of Ruhnn. Please go ahead.
Thank you, operator. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ruhn's earnings conference call for the first quarter of fiscal year 2021. As a reminder, this conference is being recorded. The company's financial and operating results were issued in a press release earlier today and are available online. You can download the earnings release and sign up for the company's email distribution list by visiting our IR section of the company's website at ir.ruhn.com. Ms. Lei Sun, our founder, director, and CEO, and Ms. Jackie Wang, our CFO, will begin with some prepared remarks. Following those prepared remarks, Ms. Min Feng, our founder and the chairman of the board of directors, will also join us for the Q&A session. Before we continue, please know that today's discussion will contain forward-looking statements made under the Safe Harbor provisions of the U.S. Private Securities Litigation Reform Act of 1995. Forward-looking statements involve inherent risks and uncertainties. As such, the company's actual results may be materially different from the views expressed today. Further information regarding these and other risks and uncertainties is included in certain filings of the company with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, including its annual report on Form 20-F. The company doesn't assume any obligation to update any forward-looking statements except as required by law. Please also note that the company's earnings press release and this conference call may include discussions of unaudited GAAP financial information as well as unaudited non-GAAP financial matters. The company's press release contains a reconciliation of the unaudited non-GAAP matters to the unaudited most directly comparable GAAP matters. I'll now turn the call over to Ruhn's founder, director, and CEO, Ms. Lei Sun. Ms. Sun, please go ahead.
Thank you, Sterling. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our earnings conference call for the first quarter of fiscal year 2021. We delivered a strong start to our new fiscal year, driven by the successful transition of our business focus to our service business under the platform model. Service revenue reached 113.7 million, with a year-over-year increase of 74%, maintaining its rapid year-over-year growth momentum for the fifth consecutive quarter following our IPO in April 2019. The percentage of service revenue as compared to total net revenue increased to 41% from 21% in the same quarter of last fiscal year. In addition, we generated a non-GAAP adjusted net income of RMB 10.7 million, compared to a net loss of RMB 21.6 million in the same quarter of last fiscal year. In fiscal year 2021, we will continue to deepen our efforts in the e-commerce area, as well as emphasize improving operational efficiency and profitability. Our outstanding performance once again demonstrated our capabilities in QL incubation and cultivation. As of June 30, 2020, the total number of QLs signed by Ruhnn through long-term agreements grew 31% year-over-year to 174, while the aggregate number of fans grew 53% year-over-year to over 263 million. With our focus on growing service business and with all of our standard QLs having been involved in the platform model as of June 30, 2020, we now classify all of our standard QLs based on the total service revenue generated by them on the platform model during the previous 12 months as an updated method to assess our QL's performance. As of June 30, 2020, Our platform top-tier QLs increased to 8 from 2 as of June 30, 2019. Services revenue generated from our platform top-tier QLs accounted for 35% of total service revenue, which indicated that each top-tier QL's average contribution was less than 5% of total service revenue. We are leveraging the entire QL metrics to drive the future service revenue growth. I would like to further point out that following the significant expansion of our business under the platform model and the business model transition, we started to review our results of operations according to operating segments when making decisions about allocating resources and assessing performance. The two segments are service through the platform model and the product sales under the full service model. For the first fiscal quarter, the services segment under the platform model demonstrated excellent profitability with income from operations of RMB 22.2 million and operating margin and adjusted operating margin reaching 20% and 22% respectively. Since fiscal year 2019, we started the business transition as we discussed in our previous earnings call. As of March 31, 2020, we had achieved certain milestones in our business transition to the service business. For the service business, we are offering various QL monetization channels for QLs and providing sales and advertising services for the third-party brands and merchants, like e-commerce live streaming, advertising, and other sales services through online sharing stores and joint stores. The platform model has already become the focus of our business and will be the primary driver of overall profitability in the future. E-commerce live streaming, sales service through online sharing stores, and advertising services are the main drivers to support our sustained growth in this fiscal year. Firstly, e-commerce live streaming has emerged as an important monetization channel. It has maintained strong growth momentum in the first fiscal quarter, generating approximately 21% of the total service revenue and increasing about 700% year-over-year. Leveraging our high-quality QL metrics, we offer third-party brands a strategy that combines both quality and efficiency, helping them receive a premium payment on their brand to lessen the impact from lower price promotions during e-commerce live streaming. In addition, we have set up strategic cooperation with multiple platforms to explore e-commerce live streaming monetization channels. Our QLs also expand their monetization channels beyond pure live streaming, including online sharing stores and brand advertisement, to name a few. Secondly, moving to service through our online sharing store method, we collect service fees from third-party merchants based on their either the actual traffic directed to or actual sales facilitated in their online stores. Related service revenue, representing 15% of the total service revenue in the current quarter, increased by nearly 62% year-over-year. Our plan is to continue setting up more diverse types of virtual online sharing stores for more and more newly signed QLs who exhibit excellent marketing skills. Through our QL's distinct personal style and our precise matching capabilities, we can effectively realize traffic and content monetization. Thirdly, turning to our advertising services. Advertising services revenue, accounting for 48% of total service revenue in the current quarter, increased 53% year-over-year. As of June 30, 2020, We had partnered with a total of 1,186 brands in our advertising services, representing nearly 70% growth from 701 brands as of June 30, 2019. The recurring brands accounted for over 60% of the total number of brands we served in the current quarter. For the brand categories, skincare and cosmetic accounted for over 50%. Top 10 brands accounted for around 31% of total advertising service revenue, and there was no one brand accounted for over 10%. With minimum concentration risk. In addition, the major social media platforms for us to provide advertising services have extended even further beyond just Weibo and Bilibili, with Xiaohongshu and Douyin now being added to the roster. And advertising services revenue generated through Xiaohongshu, accounting for nearly 10% of totally advertising service revenue. We will continue growing the advertising business and look forward to collaborating with more brands, both domestically and globally. Now, I will provide an update on the company's recent strategy initiative. To act as a supplement to our core incubated QLs, we launched the BK plan to target the top QLs who have a large number of followers and a strong influencing power on major social platforms in China. Drawing on our extensive experience and in-depth knowledge of best practices across the industry, we can provide these QLs with new monetization opportunities, such as e-commerce live streaming, advertising campaigns, and online sharing stores, as well as strengthen their monetization capabilities. This strategy has been proved practicable by the performance of recently signed top QLs through long-term agreements. For example, Xiaowan, a pan-entertainment QL on Kuaishou, had zero net increase in the number of her fans during the 6-month period prior to joining Ruhnn. Her monetization channel was relying on virtual gifts. After collaborating with Ruhnn, we soon discovered her potential in the e-commerce live streaming business. The sales performance has been consistently exceeding expectations. Meanwhile, through the continuous efforts of our content production and the QL incubation teams, the number of Xiaowan's followers on social platforms has increased by over 1 million in a 3-month period. Her personal monthly income has increased over 3 times. And for the social media platforms we cooperated with, in addition to Weibo, other iconic social media platforms such as Bilibili, Douyin, Xiaohongshu, and Kuaishou are becoming more and more important. For example, Kuaishou has grown fast in e-commerce live streaming business, and Xiaohongshu is becoming very attractive in the advertising business. A total of more than 20 QLs on Xiaohongshu have joined Ruhnn this year. Ruhnn has benefited tremendously as we have been incubating our QLs metrics through various social media platforms. Beauty blogger Ximei, who was incubated by Ruhnn on Kuaishou platform, has made substantial progress in performance through an approximate 6-month period of continuous recommending and introducing of beauty and makeup products to her followers. GMV facilitated by Ximei increased to over RMB 4 million in August 2020 from RMB 2 million in April 2020, purely on Kuaishou. Within Ruhnn, we are also working on various new business initiatives, such as an artificial intelligence-enabled selection system for women's apparel products which has served an accumulated number of approximately 100 third-party merchants and brands since its inception. As a leading QR facilitator in China, we are building a technology-driven QR platform to cope with the increasing demand for our service on the platform model. Our QR platform, a proprietary technology platform, enables brands and merchants to place their orders for QR service online, as well as complete the whole process online, including submitting product samples and pictures, arranging QR live streaming schedule, signing cooperation agreements. The QR platform, capitalizing on AI technology, will intelligently match brands and merchants with suitable QRs in our QR pool. Moreover, given that key opinion consumers, also known as QCs, who test and review products and share their opinions and comments on social media, are playing an increasingly important role in many consumers' decision-making processes. We are also developing QC Community, a proprietary technology platform, aiming to reach a broad population of QCs and monetize their content. QCs will be able to earn credits and awards by sharing content on our QC community. And we plan to provide QCs who have greater potential with free training and cultivate them to be successful QLs. As of June 30, 2020, we had a technology team with more than 40 engineers. Our continuous hard work has begun to bear fruit, and our achievements are increasingly recognized by the market. In July 2020, we won 2 Golden Lion Awards. The first was Gold Award of Best Short Videos by MCN for taking city characteristics as the topic to shoot in skincare advertising. The other was Bronze Award of Most Valuable Commercial Video from a QL, which was a comment by Jiansao's vlog of her visit to PNG Research Center. We are honored that these 2 awards are not only a recognition of our past efforts, but also an encouragement to the future development of Ruhnn. Lastly, let me provide an update on our share repurchase program. In June 2020, our board of directors approved a share repurchase program of up to $15 million of our outstanding ADS for a period not to exceed 12 months, beginning on June 2, 2020. We commenced this share repurchase program on June 9, 2020, and between that day and the end of September 11, 2020, approximately 891,000 ADS were repurchased for an aggregate consideration of approximately $3.1 million. We funded the repurchase made on this program from our existing cash balance. This program reflects our solid financial position and our commitment to increasing shareholder value and our confidence in our business fundamentals and the long-term prospects. We expect to continue to implement our share repurchase program in a manner consistent with market conditions and the interest of our shareholders, subject to the restrictions relating to volume, price, and the timing on the applicable law. With that, I will now turn the call over to Mr. Jackie Wang, CFO of the company, who will provide an update on our financial performance for the first quarter of fiscal year 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Sun, and hello everyone. We achieved excellent results for the first fiscal quarter. Services revenue through the platform model increased 74% year-over-year, amounting to 41% of total net revenue. Net loss attributable to Ruhnn was RMB 56.6 million, inclusive of non-cash amortization and impairment of exclusive cooperation rights under the full service model. Adjusted net income attributable to Ruhnn was RMB 10.7 million as compared to a loss of RMB 21.6 million in the same period of last fiscal year. Furthermore, net cash provided by operating activities increased 11 times year-over-year to RMB 11.6 million. Now, let's move to detailed financial performance for the first quarter of fiscal year 2021. Total net revenue was RMB 280.4 million, a decrease of RMB 32.4 million or 10% from RMB 312.8 million for the same quarter of last fiscal year, which was mainly due to the decrease in product sales revenue through the full service model and partially offset by the significant increase in services revenue through the platform model. Services revenue through the platform model was RMB 113.7 million, an increase of RMB 48.2 million or 74% from RMB 65.5 million for the same quarter of last fiscal year. The increase was mainly attributable to, first, the increase in the number of KOLs serving the company's platform model, which increased to 174 as of June 30, 2020, from 133 as of June 30, 2019. Second, the improved performance of such KOLs, as evidenced by the increase in the aggregate number of the products of the platform top tier, established, and emerging KOLs to 45 as of June 30, 2020, from 28 as of June 30, 2019. And finally, an increase in the number of brands that the company cooperated with in its advertising business to 431 in the first quarter of fiscal year 2021 from 278 for the same quarter of last fiscal year. Product sales revenue through the full service model was RMB 166.8 million, a decrease of RMB 80.5 million or 33% from RMB 247.3 million for the same quarter of last fiscal year. The decrease was primarily attributable to the following factors. First, the transition of the business model of some online stores from the full service model to the platform model. This led to the number of our own online stores decreasing to 19 as of June 30, 2020, from 40 as of June 30, 2019. And the number of our KOLs serving the full service model decreasing to 3 as of June 30, 2020, from 11 as of June 30, 2019. This factor contributed to the majority of the decrease. Second, we experienced a decrease in the product sales generated for the online stores served by a top KOL who suffered from negative publicity since April 2020. And finally, the ongoing impact of the COVID-19 pandemic in China during the first fiscal quarter, although to a lesser extent as previous quarter. Cost of revenue was RMB 173 million, a decrease of RMB 28.3 million, or 14% from RMB 201.3 million for the same quarter of last fiscal year, which was primarily in line with the decrease in total net revenue. Cost of product sales decreased by RMB 55.3 million, or 32% year-over-year, to RMB 118.6 million. Gross profit was RMB 107.4 million, a decrease of RMB 4.1 million or 4% from RMB 111.5 million for the same quarter of last fiscal year, primarily as a result of the decrease in product sales revenue. Gross margin increased to 38% from 36% for the same quarter of last fiscal year, primarily attributable to the increase in services revenue as a percentage of total net revenue to 41% from 21% for the same quarter of last fiscal year. Services revenue has a higher gross margin as compared to product sales revenue. Total operating expenses were RMB 171.9 million, an increase of RMB 33.1 million or 24% from RMB 138.8 million for the same quarter of last fiscal year. Included in the total operating expenses was an aggregate of RMB 67.3 million of non-cash amortization and impairment of intangible assets in relation to exclusive cooperation rights, non-cash share-based compensation expense, and litigation costs in the first quarter of fiscal year 2021, compared to a non-cash amortization of exclusive cooperation rights of RMB 5.2 million in the same quarter of last fiscal year. Total operating expenses accounted for 61% and 44% of the total net revenue for the first quarter of fiscal year 2021 and 2020 respectively. Excluding the non-cash charges and the litigation costs as mentioned above, the percentage were 37% and 43% for the first quarter of fiscal year 2021 and 2020 respectively. Fulfillment expenses were RMB 18.8 million, a decrease of RMB 16.2 million or 46% from RMB 35 million for the same quarter of last fiscal year. The decrease was largely in line with the decrease in product sales. Fulfillment expenses accounted for 11% and 14% of product sales revenue for the first quarter of fiscal year 2021 and 2020 respectively. Sales and marketing expenses were RMB 69.5 million, an increase of RMB 0.5 million or 1% from RMB 69 million for the same quarter of last fiscal year. Sales and marketing expenses consist primarily of expenses for KOL incubation, cultivation, and training for the company's platform KOLs, as well as expenses incurred for the company's advertising, marketing, and brand promotion activities under the full service model. Following the expansion of KOL pool from 133 signed KOLs as of June 30, 2019 to 174 as of June 30, 2020, related expenses incurred for KOL incubation, cultivation, and training in order to support increased activities for the company's KOL sales and advertising business increased accordingly. Sales and marketing expenses accounted for 25% and 22% of the total net revenue for the first quarter of fiscal year 2021 and 2020 respectively. Excluding the non-cash share-based compensation expense, the percentage was 23% and 22%. General and administrative expenses was RMB 25.2 million, a decrease of RMB 5.3 million or 17% from RMB 30.5 million for the same quarter of last fiscal year. General and administrative expenses accounted for 9% and 10% of the total net revenue for the first quarter of fiscal year 2021 and 2020, respectively. Excluding non-cash share-based compensation expense and litigation costs, the percentage was 7% and 10%, respectively. Amortization of exclusive cooperation rights of RMB 5.2 million represented the amortization of intangible assets in relation to exclusive cooperation rights granted by a top KOL. Impairment of exclusive cooperation rights was RMB 53.2 million compared to nil in the same quarter of last fiscal year. We experienced a significant decrease in the product sales revenue generated from the online stores served by a top KOL who suffered from negative publicity since April 2020. We assess the continuing impact of our operations and recognize an impairment on the intangible assets relating to the exclusive cooperation rights granted by this KOL as of June 30, 2020. Net loss attributable to Ruhnn was RMB 56.6 million, inclusive of an aggregate of RMB 67.3 million of non-cash amortization and impairment of intangible assets, non-cash share-based compensation expense, and litigation costs, compared to RMB 26.7 million, inclusive of amortization of exclusive cooperation rights of RMB 5.2 million for the same quarter of last fiscal year. Adjusted net income attributable to Ruhnn was RMB 10.7 million compared to a loss of RMB 21.6 million for the same quarter of last fiscal year. In terms of our balance sheet and cash flow, as of June 30, 2021, the company had cash and cash equivalents, restricted cash, and short-term investment of RMB 795.4 million compared to RMB 800.6 million as of March 31, 2020. Net cash provided by operating activities was RMB 11.6 million for the first quarter of fiscal year 2021 compared to RMB 1 million for the same quarter of last fiscal year. Net cash used in financial activities was RMB 11 million, primarily as a result of the share repurchase program as updated by Mr. Sun just now. Before moving to the outlook, I would like to spend a few minutes to discuss further our segment performance. As discussed by Mr. Sun above, we started to review our results of operations by two operating segments. During the current quarter, for the services segment, we achieved income from operations of RMB 22.2 million, which was equal to services revenue minus related cost of revenue and all operating expenses like sales and marketing, general and administrative expenses, with operating margin reaching 20%. Adjusted income from operations of services was RMB 25.1 million, with adjusted operating margin reaching 22%. Product sales segment suffered a loss in the current quarter. The adjusted loss from operations of product sales segment was RMB 11.6 million. With respect to our outlook, we are reiterating that for the full fiscal year 2021, we currently expect our net revenue from services through the platform model to be between RMB 520 million and RMB 610 million, representing a year-over-year growth of between 72% and 101%. This forecast reflects our current and preliminary view on the current business situation and market conditions, which are all subject to change. We do not provide outlook for our product sales revenue for the full fiscal year 2021 because of the uncertainty in the continued impact of the negative publicity of the top KOL serving certain online stores under the full service model, as discussed previously. This concludes our prepared remarks. We will now open the call for Q&A. Operator, please go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. If you wish to ask a question, please press *1 on your telephone and wait for your name to be announced. If you wish to cancel your request, please press the pound or hash key. For the benefit of all participants on today's call, if you wish to ask your question to the company's management in Chinese, please immediately repeat your question in English. Your first question comes from the line of Vicky Wei of Citi. Please ask your question.
Thank you. 管理层晚上好，谢谢接受我的提问。我有2个小问题。第一个问题是，可不可以请管理层分享一下关于头部网红张大奕在这个季度的收入的贡献和收入的增长？我的第2个小问题是关于直播带货的竞争。现在我们看到有很多网红，包括明星都加入了带货的行列。想请问管理层是如何看待直播带货的竞争格局，并且RUHN的网红的优势主要是什么？我自己翻译一下，谢谢。Good evening, management. Thanks for taking my questions. My first question is about, so will management provide some color about the revenue contribution from the top KOL Ms. Zhang Dayi this quarter and the revenue year-over-year growth? And my second question is about the e-commerce live streaming competition. So what does management think of the intensified competition with increasingly more KOLs in this sector, and how can RUHN KOL differentiate? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vicky. Let me take your first question. And regarding the percentage of the revenue generated by Dayi, I probably will divide it into 2 segments. For the services revenue under the platform model, service revenue generated by Dayi, primarily e-commerce live streaming, accounted for 8% of the total services revenue, less than 10%. For the product sales revenue under the full service model, the product sales revenue generated by online stores served by Dayi accounted for about 70% of the total product sales revenue in both the current quarter and the same quarter of last fiscal year. For the product sales revenue, the revenue generated by Dayi decreased about 33% as compared to the same quarter of last fiscal year, primarily attributable to the following 2 factors. One is because we transited her cosmetics online stores from the full service model into the platform model in I think in August 2019. So the second factor is since April 2020, there was negative publicity and which affected the revenue generated by Dayi. So for your second question, you are talking about the competition of the KOLs in the e-commerce live streaming sector, and I would say that the service revenue generated through the live streaming played a more and more important role in our platform model and increased over 700% as compared to the prior year. And but we are playing differently as compared to our players. And although the competition is intense, we are operating, just like we are operating differently. First, we are leveraging on our high quality KOL, and we offer, third-party brand strategy that combines both quality and efficiency, helping them to receive a premium payment on their brand to lessen any impact from the lower price promotion during e-commerce live streaming. And in addition, we also set up strategic cooperation with multiple platforms to explore the e-commerce live streaming monetization channels. I'm talking about, in addition to the Taobao platform, we are working with, other social media platforms. And for the live streaming, and including the, Kuaishou, Douyin, and the Xiaohongshu, they are becoming more and more important. And for example, Kuaishou has grown fast in e-commerce live streaming business, and Ruhnn has benefited tremendously as we have been incubating our KOL metrics through various social media platforms, and our service revenue from the e-commerce live streaming on Kuaishou accounted for currently about 5% in Q1, but we will see it's trending up. And we also kick off the cooperation with Xiaohongshu for the live streaming in September 2020. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your next question comes from the line of Ruhnn of UBS. Please ask your question.
管理层晚上好啊，感谢接受我的提问。我有两个问题，第一个呢是关于这个电商平台之间的竞争，不知道管理层可不可以讲一下，就站在您的角度怎么看这些不同平台之间未来2、3年的竞争格局，比如淘宝和这个抖音、快手自营电商之间的一个竞争关系，然后如涵自己的话是否是有意要扩展跟一些其他这些新平台的一些合作，这是第一个问题。第二个问题呢是关于头部的 KOL。想问一下，就未来几个季度会不会给这些头部的 KOL 更高的激励费用或者是收入分成比例？I will translate myself. My first question is about how is your view on competition dynamics in e-commerce industry like Taobao versus Douyin and Kuaishou, and will Ruhnn collaborate more with these emerging platforms in the future? The next one is about top KOL. I was wondering how is Ruhnn's plan to retain its top talents, and shall we expect higher motivation costs or revenue sharing ratio, which will hit the P&L maybe in next few quarters? Thanks.
大家好，我是冯敏，我来回答一下这个问题啊。我理解您第一个问题是侧重于随着社交媒体平台电商属性的加强对于淘宝的影响。那其实从这个19年以来，电商直播带货已经成为国内最热门的领域风口，吸引了大量的社交平台和电商平台纷纷介入，都希望从中获得一些市场份额。因此我们认为未来1到2年主流电商平台在带货直播领域的竞争会越来越剧烈，所以拥有大量流量的社交平台会依靠自身的流量优势，寻求更多的一个变现的商业路径，加快变现的速度，从而扩大自己的竞争优势。这对于淘宝平台是会有一定的这个分流作用。但整个中国的电商直播领域潜力巨大，市场规模达几万亿水平，距离到达天花板这个还非常远，整体上升空间很大。在这里面，淘宝还是非常非常重要的一个这个玩家和市场份额的占有者。
Thank you for your question. I'm Feng Min. I will answer your questions. To my understanding that Your first question is more focused on the effects on Taobao platform from the e-commerce characteristics of other social media platforms. E-commerce live streaming has been quite popular since 2019, attracting a large number of social media platforms and e-commerce players. Of course, that includes Douyin and Kuaishou as well. Especially since 2020, both Douyin and Kuaishou have made great efforts to focus on KOLs and the supply chain in their internal e-commerce segment in order to get a piece of the cake. In our opinion, those mainstream e-commerce players will face quite intense competition in the e-commerce live streaming sector in the next 1 to 2 years. Especially, those large platforms with a huge amount of traffic, which mainly rely on their traffic advantage, will seek more monetization channels and to speed up the overall process to achieve more competitive advantage. Of course, that has some effects on Taobao platform. Currently, the overall market size for e-commerce live streaming in China is tens of trillions of RMB with quite huge potential, but still far away from the sector failing. So we believe the sector still has a long way to go.
然后我们跟那个快手、抖音这样的主流社交平台，过去一直也有深入的这个合作。我们从19年9月份搭建了淘宝和这个抖音的电商直播团队，然后在2020年的3月份，我们搭建了快手团队的快手平台的直播带货团队。如上面所介绍的，我们陆续签约了小婉、西梅、小李潮等为代表的这个抖音、快手的平台头部红人，通过内容制作和孵化团队持续不断的努力，持续的赋能红人，其单场复购率和粉丝数量等指标也在不断的优化。每个红人的电商直播带货业绩非常稳定的进步，单场成交均在100万，这个大多数都在100万GMV以上。红人商业化的变现路径正在不断的丰富和立体化。
Ruhnn has been in depth cooperation with such mainstream social media platforms as Douyin and Kuaishou for long. In September 2019, we internally set up the e-commerce live streaming operation team in Taobao and Douyin, and this year in March we did the same in Kuaishou. As mentioned above, this year Ruhnn has signed long-term KOL contracts with top-tier KOLs such as Xiao Wan, Xi Mei, and Xiao Li Chao, etc. Through continuous efforts by the content production and cultivation team, the company have empowered KOLs all the way to achieve a much higher repeat purchase rate and a much larger number of fan base. Specifically, each KOL performed quite well in their e-commerce live streaming business and made quite a lot of progress. The transaction volume for each KOL in their each live streaming is approximately several million RMB. Therefore, it is quite clear that the KOL monetization channel is becoming more and more multiple and more flexible.
关于第二个问题，我们和所有与公司签长约的独家红人分成比例都是按照协议约定的。与公司签订长期合约的红人大多都是独家，且服务期限大多是5到8年。公司有很强的红人担当、内容制作、孵化服务等支持团队，赋能红人、支持红人的长期发展。红人们会越来越依靠这个RUHN这个平台，匹配多样性、立体化的丰富变现渠道，去服务更多的第三方商家和品牌。红人们和RUHN平台形成了强绑定的关系，因此RUHN平台上个体红人，包括头部、颈部、腰部达人，总体流失率非常小。
Regarding your second question, the KOL service fee percentage is based on the long-term agreements between the company and the exclusive KOLs. Most of the internally incubated KOLs are exclusive to Ruhnn with a 5 to 8 year long-term contract with an excellent support team to serve each KOL. For example, content production, incubation, and cultivation services to empower KOLs for their long-term development, etc. Since Ruhnn is a strong platform to provide KOLs with multiple monetization channels to serve more third-party merchants and third-party brands. So KOLs rely on Ruhnn platform to a larger extent. Therefore, there comes a quite strong relationship between Ruhnn and its KOLs. Actually, the overall turnover rate for KOLs in Ruhnn, including top-tier, established, and emerging KOLs, is quite low.
当然，随着直播带货比例的提升，公司未来的毛利率也可能会受到一定的影响。直播带货往往红人的分成比例会略微高一些。
Of course, following the increase in the percentage of services revenue through live streaming, as compared to the total services revenue, the gross margin will be in some way affected, because the KOL services percentage is actually higher than other monetization channels. Thank you. Operator?
Your next question comes from the line of Lingyi Zhao of SWS Research. Please ask your question.
各位管理层，大家晚上好，也非常恭喜Ruhnn取得了很亮丽的成绩。我这边有2个问题，第一个问题还是要接着我们之前关于直播领域的一个分享。我们可以看到现在很多的平台包括品牌都非常重视直播，那我们的一个直播产生的收入占比大概是多少？另外我们的 KOL 主要集中在哪些平台？这是第一个问题。第二个是想请教一下关于我们的品类结构。我们目前的主力品类，包括您认为未来可能有一些我们没开发的，但是非常有潜力的品类是哪些？我们自己翻译一下哈。Now both platforms and brands attach great importance to the live streaming area. What are the proportion of revenue generated by our live streaming business, and what are the main platforms that our KOL is concentrated on? My second question is about our category mix. What are the main categories of product and service besides like our women's wearing, and what do you think is our most potential categories such as FMCG, etc.? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let me take your question. And your first one regarding the service revenue generated through the live streaming in the current quarter is accounted for 21% of the total services revenue and in the current quarter, as compared to about less than 4% or 5% in the same quarter of last fiscal year. Regarding the platforms of our KOLs who having regarding the social media accounts, I probably will not only mention the KOL who are only doing the the e-commerce live streaming. I'm talking about all our KOLs. As of June 30, 2020, we have assigned KOL about 174 KOLs, and we are incubating them, as we have been mentioned all the time. That's one of our advantage. We are incubating and empower our KOLs across all major social media platforms in China, and each KOL has more than 2 major social media accounts. For example, for the 174 signed KOL, as I mentioned just now, we are incubating them. About, I think 90% of our signed KOL are in Weibo accounts, or you can see have Weibo accounts, and over 60% have accounts in Xiaohongshu, and over 50% in Douyin platform, and also 50% in Bilibili. I think nearly 30% of our total KOL have major social media accounts in Kuaishou. So you can see from that percentage that we are really incubating them across all the social media platforms. And for your third question regarding the major category of products, the third-party brand, and we are serving, it depending on the actual monetization channel you are referring to. If you, for example, if you are talking about the advertising services and the platform model, which accounted for nearly 50% of our total services revenue, the major category it's about the cosmetics and personal care and skincare, right? That I think accounted for over 50% or nearly or over 60% of all the advertising service revenue. And in the future, we expect those categories will continue to play the most important role in the future. But if you are talking about the live streaming, e-commerce live streaming, the category just now I mentioned is still a major category, but we can see that more and more other categories, including the food, the electric appliance, or other, like fashion products, are increasing in the future, and we expect that categories will diversify in the future gradually. But if you are talking about just live streaming, about 21% of the total services revenue under the platform model. And if you are talking about the services revenue through the online sharing store and the women apparel category are the majority category in that monetization channel. Of course, if you are talking about the full service model, nearly 100% is related to the women apparel. Hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Operator?
There are no further questions. Now I'd like to turn the call back over to the company for closing remarks.
Thank you, operator. Thank you, everyone. Thank you again for joining us today. If you have any further questions, please feel free to contact the company's investor relations department. The contact information provided on the website or the company's IR agency, TVG Investor Relations. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, operator. Thank you. Bye.
This concludes the conference call.